Why Japanese comfort women POWs were shocked. When American soldiers didn't even touch them, they were called comfort women. When they were captured, the Japanese female prisoners believed the Americans would humiliate them. But when the gates of the camp opened, what made them tremble wasn't the sight of guns, it was the scent of jasmine soap and the clean clothes handed to them. Why were they treated this way? What happened after these Japanese prisoners were washed and dressed with care? And why did an American soldier turn his gun on his own comrades just to protect a Japanese woman? The answer lies in the Okinawa prison camp, where a single bullet preserved the one thing war nearly destroyed: humanity. The only question is, do you have the courage to listen until the end? Okinawa, June 1945. Rain poured endlessly over bomb craters that still smoked faintly. The ground smelled of gunpowder and death. 3 Japanese women sat huddled together in an old munitions bunker once filled with shells, now filled with fear. Aiko Tanaka, 25, had been a nurse. Beside her was Hana Kobayashi, a 30-year-old teacher, thin, calm, composed. The youngest, Yuri Ito, not yet 18, clutched a paper charm her mother had given her. They were comfort women, abandoned when the Japanese troops retreated. No officers, no medicine, nothing but dread. From a distance came the growl of engines, brrrm, like some metal beast drawing closer. "If they catch us," Hana whispered. "I know." Aiko cut her off. No one spoke again. Yuri trembled, holding a rusted razor. "They won't touch me, Aiko," she said, her voice cracking. A loudspeaker echoed through the valley in a long American drawl. "All Japanese personnel, come out peacefully. You will not be harmed." They didn't understand every word, but they caught the phrase, "not harmed." Aiko gave a dry laugh. Not harmed? They killed whole villages. Outside, a shadow moved across the doorway. The metal door creaked open. A burst of white light flooded the bunker. The women clung to each other. Boots stomped in the mud. The click of a rifle bolt. A single American soldier appeared, raincoat spattered with dirt, rifle slung over his shoulder. But instead of charging in, he stopped. His eyes held no hatred, only caution. He spoke slowly, clearly. "You're safe now. No one will hurt you." Silence. He lowered his gun and motioned to someone behind him. 2 more soldiers approached, not laughing, not leering, not speaking. One set down a medical kit and a bundle of dry blankets, then stepped back. No one touched them. "Come out," the officer said hoarsely. "The war's over." The war. Over. The 3 women stared at one another, not daring to believe it. Aiko took a hesitant step outside. The daylight stung her eyes. Ahead stood a makeshift camp, wooden fences, canvas tents, an American flag hanging limp in the rain. Soldiers moved quietly about. No jokes, no shouts, only a small sign, nailed crookedly, scrawled in broken Japanese. "Prisoner women touching forbidden." Yuri gasped. Did they really write that? "Maybe it's a trick," Hana murmured. Aiko said nothing. They were led to a tent with 3 cots, a lantern, and a basin of warm water. A young American nurse placed clean clothes on the table, coarse shirts, trousers, towels, then bowed slightly and said, "You can wash," and left. The air felt heavy as stone. Yuri began to cry. Why don't they say anything? No shouting, no laughing, no... nothing. Maybe they want us afraid, Hana whispered. Aiko sat still. Something about it all felt wrong. Too quiet. Too kind. Night fell. Wind slapped the canvas walls. From somewhere came faint laughter. Then silence again. Aiko lay awake, eyes open, hearing only her heartbeat. Then footsteps. Heavy. Slow. She sat up, straining to listen. A shadow paused at the flap of the tent. The fabric shifted. A soldier entered, not an officer, young, blonde, face flushed with drink. The stench of liquor filled the air. He glanced around, eyes glassy. Then they fixed on Aiko. "Hey," he slurred. "You're the nurse, huh?" She didn't understand all the words, but she recognized that look. The same look she'd seen 100 times before on drunk men after victory nights. She backed away, trembling. "Don't," she stammered. "No." He grinned. "No one will know." Aiko grabbed the kettle from the table and threw the hot water into his face. He screamed, lunged at her, dragging her down. Hana screamed. Yuri covered her ears, sobbing. Outside, a shout. A flashlight beam cut through the rain. "Private Cole, stand down!" Lieutenant David Miller burst into the tent. Cole turned, shouting, "She threw boiling water at me!" Miller stepped forward, voice hard. "You're drunk." "Damn right I'm drunk. We're treating these Japs better than our own boys." A blur of motion, one punch, fast and clean. Miller's fist cracked against Cole's jaw, sending him reeling. Cole staggered up, drew his pistol. "Don't you touch me, Lieutenant!" A single shot rang out, echoed through the rain. Cole fell, eyes wide open, blood pooling dark beneath him. The camp fell silent. Miller stood there, breathing hard, gun still smoking in his hand. Aiko stared at him, frozen. He lowered the weapon, looked at her for a long moment, and said hoarsely, "He broke the rule. No touching." Outside, the rain kept falling. The wind swung the wooden sign by its wire, "No touching," tapping gently against the post. Clack, clack, clack. A cold, steady sound, a reminder that in war, sometimes humanity survives only by the weight of a single bullet. The next morning, the camp was wrapped in a heavy, suffocating silence. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still slick with mud. The air thick with the mingled scent of blood and earth. In front of one of the tents, a tarp covered the body of Private Cole. The stain beneath it had already turned dark brown. No one dared step across it. Aiko sat by the flap of her tent, clutching a thin blanket. Outside, she heard the steady rhythm of boots in the mud, and then the cold bark of an MP's voice. "Lieutenant David Miller, you are under arrest for the shooting of Private Thomas Cole." They tied his hands and led him away between two rows of soldiers. He didn't resist. He only turned his head briefly, his eyes finding the women's tent. That look, quiet, weighty, without fear, made Aiko's chest tighten. Whispers spread through the camp like cigarette smoke. He killed one of his own for a Jap whore. Bet she seduced him. They're all the same, survive with their bodies. Aiko didn't understand every word, but she knew enough. Yuri clung to her arm, trembling. They'll kill him, won't they? Hana stared out through the canvas. Maybe. Aiko shook her head. No, he didn't kill out of anger. He killed for honor. Inside the command tent, Miller sat before a table. 3 military police officers faced him. The lead investigator, Major Reynolds, puffed on a pipe, voice sharp as steel. "Lieutenant, do you deny that you shot an unarmed American soldier?" "No, sir," Miller replied. "Then explain. Why?" Silence stretched. Then he said quietly, "Because he broke the rule." "The rule?" Reynolds snapped. "You mean your so-called moral code about not touching the Japs?" Miller's tone stayed even. "About not becoming what we fought against." Reynolds slammed his hand on the table. "You killed an American to save an enemy whore!" Miller lifted his gaze. "She's not the enemy anymore. The war's over." The air in the tent thickened. Another officer leaned forward. "Do you even realize what this tells the men? That a Jap's life is worth more than your brother's?" Miller gave a faint, tired smile. "No, sir. I'm saying her dignity is worth a bullet." Reynolds shot to his feet. "Take him away." The cuffs clicked shut. The door opened, spilling harsh white light into the room. Outside, soldiers stood in rows, watching in silence as Miller was led away. At that same moment, in the women's tent, a group of American soldiers came in and tossed rations onto the table. One sneered, "You happy now? Your American lover's gonna hang." Aiko caught two words, lover and hang. She stood up, shaking. "No, he saved me." "Shut up, Jap," one growled, gripping his rifle. Hana stepped in front of her. "Stop," she said, her English broken but firm. "We saw everything." They didn't believe her. They laughed. Aiko felt a chill race down her spine. She couldn't stay silent. She pushed through the tent flap, the drizzle returning, mud sucking at her feet. In the distance, she saw Miller bound in front of the command tent, two guards beside him. She ran toward them, shouting in halting English, "He saved me! He stop him! He protect rule! No touching!" The entire camp turned. Eyes, some mocking, some disgusted, some merely stunned, fixed on her. Reynolds stepped out, frowning. "Get her out of here!" Aiko dropped to her knees. "He not bad. He save woman. He save honor." "Honor?" Reynolds repeated, his voice dripping with contempt. "Your people bombed Pearl Harbor. Your soldiers raped nurses in Manila. And you talk about honor?" Aiko lifted her head, tears in her eyes but no tremor in her voice. "Then let me be the first Japanese woman to give it back." The words fell into the rain. For a moment, everything stopped. Reynolds looked at her, then at Miller. His tone softened slightly. "You have 5 minutes." He gestured for the guards to step away. Aiko walked closer. Miller looked exhausted, face pale, but when he saw her, a faint smile touched his lips. "You shouldn't have come," he murmured. She shook her head. "You shouldn't have saved me." He chuckled weakly. "Guess we both broke the rule." They stood there, two people from opposite sides of a ruined world, bound by a single dangerous belief, that decency still mattered. When the MPs unlocked his cuffs, Miller didn't move. He only looked down at the blood-stained mud. Reynolds' voice came sharp behind him. "Don't think you're a hero. You're just lucky." Miller replied quietly, "No, sir, just human." As dusk fell, Aiko sat by her tent, a blanket over her shoulders, staring at the camp gates. When Miller passed by under escort, she rose to her feet. He paused, not meeting her eyes, and said softly, "You should get some rest." She stepped forward and pulled a small strip of cloth from her sleeve, torn from the blanket the night before, still stained with Cole's blood. "Keep this," she said, "to remember the rule." He looked at the fabric, then at her. Rain dripped from the brim of his cap. "You didn't touch me," she said, "but you changed everything." He nodded. "And you reminded me what we were fighting for." They stood there in silence. From afar, the wind rattled the wooden sign, "No touching," its edges streaked with dried blood. And in the mud beneath it, their footprints stretched side by side toward the gate. Two parallel trails slowly fading in the rain. like memories dissolving into history, leaving behind only the faint imprint of something the war could not erase. 3 weeks after the gunshot, the Okinawa rains still hadn't stopped. The prison camp had grown unnervingly quiet. The wooden fences had dried, the tents had been replaced, and the words "no touching" had been repainted in fresh white. But behind that orderliness lay an emptiness no one could name. Aiko Tanaka had been cleared to return home with a group of civilian prisoners. She sat on the steps, packing what little she had: an old notebook, a handkerchief embroidered with the words "to mother" that Kenji had once given her, and a small blood-stained strip of cloth from that night. Each item was a reminder that even in darkness, someone had chosen the light. In the distance came the growl of a jeep engine. Fine mist drifted over the muddy road. The vehicle stopped. The man who stepped out was Lieutenant David Miller, in a clean new uniform, duffel bag over his shoulder. He looked thinner, his eyes deeper, wearier but no longer cold. Aiko rose, bowing slightly. He paused a few steps away, silent. Rain pattered softly between them like a fragile wall. "You leaving?" she asked, her English halting but warm. Miller nodded. "Orders from HQ, France, reconstruction duty." "Sounds like peace," she said. He gave a faint smile. "Even peace needs guarding." They fell quiet again. The wind carried the smell of wet earth and rust from the fences. Somewhere, a bugle signaled the end of the day. Aiko extended her hand.